A very warm welcome to everybody who has joined this press conference today, midday afternoon in most of Southeast Asia. I would like to express a very warm welcome on behalf of all the participants in today's press conference to representatives of media and the civil society that are joining together with us. My name is Emil Kirjas. I am former State Secretary of Foreign Affairs of North Macedonia, and I'm delighted to have the opportunity to moderate today's press conference at which the launch of the Southeast Asia community will take place. The Myanmar coup, which preoccupies the minds and the hearts of many in the international community, is indeed a cause of profound concern for everybody across the world. There is no sign for the end of the brutal crackdown, despite all the efforts by all international actors to end the violence. According to credible reports, yesterday, on the 100th day since the military junta has taken over the power in Myanmar, at least 782 people have been killed. Many people have been summoned. Over 20 people have been sentenced to deaths. Thousands of people have been put in front of the courts, sometimes in front of martial courts. Many journalists, many civil society representatives, many opposition members, many representatives of the state administration who refuse to work are subject to gross violations of human rights, according to the latest statement of the Office of the High Representative of Human Rights of the United Nations. Yesterday, even himself, the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, has renewed his call for the military to respect the will of the people and act in the greatest interest of peace and stability in the country and the region. Most notably, the Secretary General of the United Nations, for all of us who follow, have remarked that he has called on ASEAN to swiftly follow through its own commitments, while urging the international community to support regional efforts and also to respond to the increased humanitarian needs. Next to the situation in Myanmar, the situation across the other countries of the region of Southeast Asia is also deteriorating. Take Cambodia as an example. Autocracy is on the rise and human rights are being disrespected. ASEAN did not live up to the expectations of its own people, and the most prominent democratic leaders from Southeast Asia, current and former lawmakers, have already launched 2 special joint press conferences calling on the end of the non-interference policy of ASEAN, and also calling for the end of the killings in Myanmar by the suspension of the military junta from ASEAN. In follow-up today, today, these great leaders are launching a new vision, a vision for an alternative ASEAN called Southeast Asia Community. You're going to be presented with 12 precise points, 12 points signaling unity, perfection, and completion by the following leaders who have a vision for the future of Southeast Asia. Sam Rainsy, leader of the opposition in Cambodia; Kasit Piromya, former foreign minister of Thailand; Dr. Fadli, member of parliament and former deputy speaker from Indonesia; Sochua, the first minister of women and veteran affairs from Cambodia; Kiko Pangilinan, senator and chair of the Council of Asian Liberals and Democrats; Wong Chen, member of parliament from Malaysia; and Dr. Sasa, a high representative of the National Unity Government, Democratic Government of Myanmar. Without further ado, I have the honor to invite Sam Rainsy, the leader of the opposition of Cambodia, who himself lives in exile due to the rising authoritarianism in his own country, to present the reason and the background, as well as the vision for the Southeast Asian community. Mr. Rainsy, you have the floor.
Good afternoon to most of you in East Asia. The Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, was first created in 1967. At the time, it served a real purpose, but the world has changed profoundly over the last 50 years. ASEAN has failed to keep pace and has become an outdated relic, an enemy rather than an engine of progress. Any regional group which is based on shared interests needs to evolve, as the interests of members will change over time. These interests may even come into opposition with each other, calling the cohesion and even the existence of the group into question. The shared interests on which ASEAN rests were poorly defined from the outset. Were the common interests those of states, of governments, or of dictators ready to support each other in their attempts to cling on to power? In recent years, ASEAN has simply appeared to be a club for dictators whose interests are opposed to those of the peoples they oppress. A more genuine regional community must be based on shared values and aspirations of the peoples. That is why we are creating the Southeast Asia Community, or SEAC, which aims to protect the values of our people and advance their right to elect their governments in free and fair elections. Rather than being based on cynical opportunism backed by violence, the SEAC community stands for the universal values of freedom, democracy, justice, and the rule of law. Thank you.
I thank you very much, Honorable Sam Rainsy. And I would like now to call on Kasit Piromya, the former Foreign Minister of Thailand, long-term diplomat, also former Member of Parliament, to explain what is the vision for SEAC in terms of values and principles. Kasit, you have the floor.
Thank you. Sawadee krap to everyone, and please be in good health and in safety. I look at the ASEAN community of today as an entity comprising 10 members with 10 political systems. So the 10 member states of ASEAN have different political systems. It is all right for the 10 to be working together on infrastructure development, connectivity, on common market, base of production for the world. And I think to work on, fighting diseases and so on, and cross-border crimes. But when it comes to responsibility to protect in terms of political freedom, in the services of the basic human rights, in terms of protection of the people from coercion, fear, and all type of suppression and denial of basic freedom and so on, the ASEAN community is not in the position to do so, because ASEAN community of the past 53 years has not been basing itself on the foundation of democratic values. And at the same time, the membership in the ASEAN community has no requirement that each of the incoming applicant or member state must be democratically oriented with a democratic political regime and freedom for every citizen in that particular country. And the case at hand, the situation in Myanmar with the advent of the coup d'etat on the 1st of February of this year has amply, illustrated that ASEAN community and its member states are not in the position and will not be in the position to tackle, I think, the denial of freedom, the assassination of democratic regime of Myanmar. So in that sense, it has come upon us, this particular group, and I think many friends and so on throughout the years and the months and so on, that there is a need for ASEAN to reform itself or to come out with a new transformation of ASEAN as a whole, based on democratic values, respect of the human rights, and so on. So in that sense, the vision that we are about to launch is for a new ASEAN, will be called Southeast Asia Community, to be based on democratic values and principles, which means that not only the ASEAN of the new will have institutions like assembly, court of justice, interested assemblies of various professions and so on, that would be based on the people or people-oriented. But at the same time or concurrently, each of the member states of the Southeast Asia community or the new ASEAN community will have to be democratic, like members of the European Union. And we will give the time to all the member states to adjust itself. We might need a 10-year period. That will be fine. But at the same time, I think we, the people, the academic world, the media, the intellectual group, the business sectors, professionals, farmers, and so on, all can join in the, I think, the drawing up of a new architecture for Southeast Asia community based on democratic principle, universal values, of human rights, freedom of expression, rules of law, accountability, transparency, and good governance in the running of the affair of the state in each particular country, but at the same time also at the ASEAN level or at the new Southeast Asia community. So it will be a new community with the people really at the center of everything. And I think the political powers are only to serve the people. And in that sense, the Southeast Asian nations of the 10 could move forward with credibility and with dignity. Thank you very much.
I thank you very much, Honorable Kasit. And I have the honor to call now on Honorable Dr. Fadli Zon, Member of Parliament in Indonesia and until recently a Deputy Speaker of the Parliament, to express how in the vision for the Southeast Asia community, these values that were presented earlier will be protected institutionally. Dr. Fadli Zon, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Emil. I would like to stress out that Southeast Asia as a region needs to adapt to today's complex challenges and regional dynamics. So during my tenure as a Vice Speaker of the Indonesian House, I've been consistently strive for a resolution regarding the humanitarian situation of the Rohingya people in Rakhine, Myanmar, for 4 years in a row, but always hindered by rigid interpretation of principle of non-interference that resulted in no consensus reached. The principle of non-interference has also hindered Southeast Asian countries from discussing crucial matters that affected the regional stability, human security, democracy, and human rights. So such experience should not occur again in the future. We can no longer limit our own efforts as a region to address urgent matters. So therefore, we encourage a more flexible and broad-minded interpretation of principle of non-interference in the sense that it should not limit our capabilities as a region to answer to complex challenges. Such interpretation would also allow us to formulate a better decision-making mechanism, such as through voting instead of only relying upon mutual consensus, particularly when our decision is required in times of desperate need. So we need an independent, strong, and responsive regional body that could protect the rights of the people of Southeast Asia. Thank you. Thank you.
I thank you very much, Dr. Fadli Zon. And I would like to invite now to the Honorable Sochua, known across the world as a human rights champion, but also known for being the first minister in Cambodia responsible for women and veteran affairs, to explain how in the vision for the Southeast Asia community, this richness and diversity of this region is going to be protected and enhanced. Madam Sochua, you have the floor.
Thank you, Emil. Southeast Asia is one of the most diverse regions in the world, with more than 100 ethnic groups and 655 million people speaking more than 1,000 languages and dialects. This vivid diversity and the potential of this talent as a resource is enormous and not yet properly addressed. Southeast Asia is the only region in the world where there is no woman as a head of state or government. While there were cultural shifts in the past decades, only 12% of CEO and board level positions in Southeast Asia are held by women today. We at Southeast Asia community are committed to ensuring that our region people of all identities are thriving regardless of gender, ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, disability, age, national origin, or social status. We at Southeast Asia community are committed to a region where no discrimination is tolerated and that all peoples are valued for their diverse identities. We are aware that it is not up to women alone to promote women's leadership or to prioritize gender equality and inclusive policies, but for societal support, all leaders, including men. Our vision for Southeast Asia community is for a region and community where the citizens and the peoples will be the focus of the society, of the government, of the businesses. Consultations and initiatives, there will be more innovative, more inclusive, more rewarding and more equitable way to harness the potentials of the peoples, both in each member state and in Southeast Asia community, where Southeast Asia will be transformed into a leading region in the world of inclusion and non-discrimination. Genocide is about to happen again in Southeast Asia. We cannot wait for more lives to be wasted. We cannot tolerate for democratic leaders, for our peoples to be put behind bars for expressing their opinions, for being a part of their communities and their nations. We need a new beginning, and that is why we are with you expressing our vision, our hope for our peoples, the peoples of Southeast Asia today. Thank you.
I thank you very much, Honorable Sochua. And I would like to call on Honorable Wong Chen, Member of Parliament from Malaysia and a chair of the International Relations and Trade Select Committee, to express how is the vision of the Southeast Asia community of this new beginning in providing prosperity and economic well-being of the peoples across the region. Wong Chen, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Emil. Allow me to say a few words on SEAC, our vision on the matter regarding regional economics and trade and prosperity and also poverty issues. We at SEAC, I mean, we've been having discussion for months on this issue. We do see the requirement for good and robust economic growth to be essential to our bigger goal, which is to eradicate poverty, foster better democracy and governance through the region, and also more importantly, encourage sustainable economics in Southeast Asia. SEAC will definitely focus on a few key issues. One of it will be on increasing intra-Southeast Asian trade. While ASEAN has performed reasonably well, there's still a lot of room for improvement. We also want to see bigger economic cooperation and to turn the region into a seamless production and services powerhouse so that we can compete competitively and on friendly basis with China and also with Europe. Now, we need strong economic policies to ensure that the economic disparity between Southeast Asian states, that too is reduced. To make SEAC work better as a community, you really need greater equality, greater comradeship overall. To do that, we need to narrow the national wealth gap between countries. For instance, we need to narrow the gap of the super rich Singapore compared to a developing country like Laos. To do this, we have policies in place. We will need definitely a Southeast Asian Development Bank of our own, so to keep out the other superpowers so that we resolve our own problems. While today we see this Myanmar issue as a political problem, we do have economic problems that we need to resolve by ourselves. So a Southeast Asian Development Bank and also SEAC to give special developmental grants to enable lesser economies in the region to catch up with the rest. Essentially, the point I want to make is this: all these economic policies that we have and that we espouse in this vision, and we do encourage the academics and economists out there to join us and develop this further, that all these economic policies are tied to SEAC's commitment to democracy and better governance. In a sense, SEAC's economic policies will be equally important as what Kun Kasit has said, and also Dr. Fadli has said, the creation of a legalistic, democratic, rules-based community, Southeast Asian community that we are pursuing. Thank you so much, Emil.
I most sincerely thank you, Honorable Wong Chen, for expressing this vision for better economic integration and prosperity for the people all across the region. We are awaiting Dr. Sasa, the High Representative Minister in the National Unity Government of Burma, to complete his ongoing meeting with the Australian Foreign Minister before he joins us and explains the vision of Southeast Asia community as a region of peace, neutrality, non-interference, but above all stability. While we are waiting for him, I would like to explain the House rules for the questions that are going to be asked to the honorable lady and gentlemen that are being present at this joint press conference today. I would like first to call on your name, your organization or the media outlet that you represent, the question, and to who the question is being addressed. At the very onset, I see a question to the panelists raised by Tan Hui Yi, asking who will be the members of the Southeast Asia community. Will it be nation states or organizations within this country? I would first like to invite Sam Rainsy as a leading person to explain what and how Southeast Asia community is going to be composed by.
SEAC will be different from the current ASEAN. SEAC will be a grouping of peoples of the 10 countries of Southeast Asia based on common values and common aspirations. It will not be a club of authoritarian leaders helping each other to consolidate their power and to oppress their peoples. We will ensure that the principle of non-interference be abandoned, because this principle is outdated. It runs against humanity. Being part of humanity, we have to show solidarity with each other in the current circumstances. We have to show our solidarity towards the Myanmar people in their fight to regain democracy, to see the result of free and fair elections in November 2020 being implemented, in seeing the power giving back to the people. Definitely, we need a new vision for the peoples of the 10 countries in Southeast Asia. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rainsy. I would like to invite Kun Kasit perhaps to add a little bit about the vision for SEAC, whether if it is, as explained, only nation states, democratic countries, as it was explained by Rainsy, or also open for NGO, civil society members and others to join. Kun Kasit.
Let me put it this way, that looking at the ASEAN community of today, or for the past 53 years, it has been based on governments. And under the governments, it's being run by the bureaucrats of the 10 member states. The people in general, 650 million people are more or less being kept out. The farmers, the laborer, SME, interested group, professional groups, and so on. They are not part and parcel of the decision-making processes of the ASEAN community since 1967 to this very day. Now, the new vision for ASEAN, which we will call SEAC, Southeast Asia Community, it will be people-based in the sense that all the people will be living under and within a democratic framework. That is, in each of the member states, it must be democratic. And I think the representation of the democratic government on the SEAC body of the future will reflect the wishes, the will of the people. That's on one point. So it will be still a member state type of membership, but based on the people. And at the same time, there will be the People's Assembly at the ASEAN level. We can think at the moment about the European Parliament, where before it used to come from members of the national parliaments from France, Germany, but lately, later it was directly elected by the people of the European Union member states and so on. At the same time, we could have also the Court of Justice, whereby ordinary people can go to the court if they are being abused, or if there were to be legal legislation and so on that are not inducive or conducive to their interest in terms of freedom, in terms of living and so on. But I think the whole gist of the matter is that the people will be at the base of the new community, Southeast Asia community. I think the details, arrangement and so on is for the discussion in the months to come, whereby we will, I think, invite all players, actors, government, non-governmental, and so on, to participate in the whole process. And then on top of that, we could have the NGO Assembly of ASEAN. We could have I think the professional associations of doctors, of architects at the ASEAN level, where each of these assembly or bodies and so on can interplay and can, I think, discuss among themselves and to come out with a joint decision so that it could go to the national government of each of the member states and later to the ASEAN Parliament as a whole for decision or for rulemakings and so on. So it's, I think the thinking will be in the process of more discussion for the months to come, and to make it more participatory in the formation of the structure and the contents of Southeast Asia community of the future. Thank you.
I thank you very much. I believe this very much answers the questions also asked by Chalida Tajon Reksung from PEF Thailand about the structure and the working of the Southeast Asia community and how to engage with the states. There is a question from Chuck from Silsos about the lack of government representation here, which is understandable, and how will SEAC be able to affect this change without the involvement of ruling, I guess, current governments. Would somebody of the honorable panel like to comment on this?
Let me jump in, Emil. Wong Chen here. Yeah. Okay, so what we're doing today is we're launching a vision. And all of us are current and former members of parliament and politicians. We do have our own network. We do have access to government. The idea is that we should start this, this concept rolling. We will be inviting NGOs and academics and other politicians to sign up to this concept, because ASEAN is just failing at so many levels. Even when I talk to government people and on an unofficial basis, they have concerns, and this Myanmar thing is just making everybody look very bad in the whole region. So there is a lot of groundswell support amongst politicians and the NGOs and other people that we need to unite more and much better. I have shared this with my counterparts from Indonesia, Dr. Fadli. I think he can add on some points as well, but we do have our own way to increase presence. And we do hope one day we have a European Union of some sort. That is why we picked the name Southeast Asian Community, in the sense that there could be structure, there could be proper parliament. Then we can actually bring Southeast Asia to the next level, to join the real international super bodies out there, and that things that is happening in Myanmar can never repeat itself. Yeah. So perhaps Dr. Fadli, maybe you boleh sambung sedikit, yeah?
Yeah, okay. So I think, as you said, this is a vision. This is an alternative project. And maybe this is a kind of a parallel policy, a parallel structure that we need to propose to the Southeast Asian community to answer the regional dynamics and also international challenges that I think ASEAN so far could not answer this properly in our own eyes. And I think this is very important for us to make this vision become a reality in the near future with our mutual values. Of course, ASEAN is Southeast Asian community is a very diverse from every point, from a religious point of view, ethnic groups, and so on. And I think it can answer so many different regional dynamics that is happening today and in the near future. So I think this is a very good vision, an alternative project, and a parallel structure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe that answers also the question that was asked by Charlida, whether this is a parallel to ASEAN. And my apology to Chili Sauce for the wrongly pronunciation of the outlet. There is also a question whether bringing different sectors together to work means an ASEAN people's movement. Maybe Madam Sochua, you can add something to this.
Yes, thank you, Emil. I really would like to stress the absence of women, the absence of and the voices of the women in ASEAN today, and especially in the ASEAN region, are invaluable. Their sweat, their hearts, their lives are all there in their work for the economy of the ASEAN. But where are their voices? This needs to be changed, and that is why we at the new initiative at SEAC, we not only see the need for change, but we have to change it quickly now. And for these voices to be heard, we start with this vision. Is a beginning, but we are asking you today through this press conference, and Kun Chalida, you are here with us. Bring us, help us to, with the networks that you have of migrant workers, of women, of LGBTQ. We have to get together now, and we are open for membership. We are open for directions, for more initiatives, and you will be part of the decision-making process, not just the voices from as a parallel channel for the SEAC, but you will be the decision makers of SEAC.
Thank you very much, Madam Sochua. There is a question also coming, a joint question about the financing of SEAC. The question is where the donors come from, or better said, as this is just launching a vision for future Southeast Asia community, the question would be, how would the financing be in the future, or where would the finances come from? Anybody from the panel might wish to answer?
I think
Yeah,
we will
Kasit,
make public announcement. We can do crowdfunding, we can raise fund and so on. We are asking through you now at the moment that you can contribute, but we will be working in details, I think, with Wong Chen, I think, to set up a couple of bank accounts in various capitals and so on, and ask for contribution. But we have to set a financial team to make everything transparent. You know, everything will be accountable and so on. But it doesn't need much money. I think we need a financing to provide to set up a secretariat. I think we need a couple of people to look at the computer system, dissemination of information and so on. But I think most of the meetings and so on could now be done by the Zoom, the setup and things like this and so on. I think we go along, you know, we work together as much as possible in each of our country. For example, I would be working very closely with Kun Chalida and a couple of the ASEAN study centers of Thai universities. And some of them, they have, I think, some budget and so on. So we can pool the resources. Then we can appeal to I think, various foundations, Thai Foundation, ASEAN, and then international foundations and so on. And I think we have to rely on individual contribution of some of the institutions and so on. So we do the thinking, the walking, and I think the raising of the fund at the same time.
Yeah, let me just continue on that point raised by Kun Kasit. Since he mentioned my name, we are actually running this thing more or less from my office at the moment, and you know, it's minimal cost. It's really minimal cost. We don't intend to raise a lot of money. You know, we may do that at a later stage. I think for us, it's important to launch the vision and to get the talk in town going around first. Yeah, if we do need a secretariat, permanent secretariat, say 5 staff, 10 staff, it's not going to cost more than $10,000 a month or whatever it is. It's going to be quite minimal. But we can also work with existing NGOs. That's the key point. To us, we have spent 5 months discussing amongst ourselves. We've looked at so many different policies, and that didn't cost us anything at all. So don't worry too much about the financing aspect. If we need to legalize and formalize a proper secretariat, we will cross the bridge at that time, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who can make small donations to support us. Yeah, I hope that answered the question.
Thank you very much. I do believe that it's quite clear explanation that it is a grassroots-based initiative. And as grassroots-based initiatives are financed by the people, by the citizens, I believe it's clear and understanding. There is also a question about what kind of activity of SEAC will do in the future. I believe that after joining this vision, please stay tuned. So the leaders who have launched this will engage with further press and political statements, but also other types of activities. So please do stay tuned about what comes next. There is also a question from Jonathan Head to everyone, asking, in Europe, a great deal of the pressure for reform of power holders comes through established political parties. How can ASEAN, with weak and transient political parties, replicate that channel of reform?
I think I have been working.
And Rainsy perhaps would like to add something.
I have been working on this, I think, and Jonathan knows very well. I'm trying to speak to as many political parties. I've been attending many seminars, organized by academics with the presence of many parties, both in the government and in the opposition. And I think the failure of Thai democratization process was the weaknesses of political parties since 1932. It's something that we have to, I think, overcome the shortcoming of political parties. And in so doing, I think we can introduce the idea of the, problem of the ASEAN community and the new vision for Southeast Asia community. It has to be done concurrently. I have been in touch with some of the politicians already, and I plan myself to go and speak to the major political parties on behalf of the group on SEAC thing. At the same time, I'm working with some NGOs, political movements, and so on, to to come out with a set of rules for democratization of Thai political parties, and not to be a sort of autocratic or personalized or money-based politics and so on. But we have to tackle the political party, because the political parties are the key to parliamentary democracy. If they do not change, they don't transform, then we cannot move. And by so doing, not only moving the country forward, I think there will be also hindrances to our very idea of creating the SEAC. If the political parties of Thailand do not come along, it would be very difficult. But by linking ourselves with NGOs and the academic world and the media and so on, will we be a force that we can pressure the political parties to behave in a better, manner and so on.
Thank you very much. Rainsy, you would like to add something? You lead one of the largest parties in the region.
Yes, I would like to take the example of Cambodia. The political scene has changed dramatically over the last few years. Actually, there are only two political parties, big political parties. The ruling party, the Cambodia People's Party, led by Mr. Hun Sen, and the Cambodia National Rescue Party, which I founded with Kem Sokha, and I am the acting president of that party. At the National Assembly, before Hun Sen dissolved our party, we were only two parties, big parties, the opposition, united democratic opposition, challenging the ruling party. So it's a matter of time, because we believe in democracy. The democratic trend is irrepressible. And when democracy prevails in Cambodia, there is a political party, there is a structure, there are organized people who are ready to promote and to implement this vision of Southeast Asia community.
Thank you. Would somebody like to add something on the political party?
I would like to add, yeah. I think with COVID-19, where people are suffering, the workers are suffering, the street vendors, we are talking about millions and millions of people. People are starting to see the weaknesses of these established political parties. The promises that these established political parties have made until now are not being delivered. I think this is for us also to promote, to advocate, to encourage for people to get into politics, political parties, especially the youth, especially women, that the political parties do not belong to any special families. Political parties must be the vision, the hopes of the people themselves, and it is through civic education promoting these ideas of politics belong to the people is, I think, one of our activities at SEAC.
Thank you very much, Madam Sochua. And last question from Gwen Robertson, related to the criticism on ASEAN with regards to the Myanmar crisis. For example, for inviting the junta chief to the last meeting in Jakarta rather than the national unity government. How would SEAC approach it in view of making it more headway than ASEAN has been able to do? This is something that was covered by the last press conference, but I would like to invite Kasit first to explain.
I would immediately invite the representative of the National Unity Government of Myanmar to a meeting in Jakarta or in Bangkok, whatever, or in Brunei as the chair. And that is I think it's a very justified move indeed, that you cannot only talk to one side of the equation, namely the junta. You have at the same time to speak to the opposition to the junta, which has all the legal rights and all the legitimacy and so on. I think that's what can be done, and it should be done, and so on. And I think on my part and so on, and together with Som Rangsi and so on, I think we have to keep on pushing our respective governments, and I think the ASEAN community as a whole, to immediately invite the NUG to the meeting with the ASEAN leaders. It will be a strong message to the junta that the coup d'etat is not a fait accompli. That is the alternative. They must come to the negotiating table. They have to end the violence and release the prisoners and so on. I think the ASEAN, the new ASEAN, has to be firm and strong and not to be blackmailed by the junta, or even to feel that if we push too much on the junta, they will run into the arms of the Chinese. Let them run to the arms of the Chinese, and then we can pick the issue up with China also. You know, so this is what we have to do. This is what decency has to be carried out. This is what principle have to be carried out, and so on. We have to stand firm on principle, and if we are serious about principle, I think the junta will understand the message. The Chinese or the Russian would understand. I think they are not new to the game, and so on.
Thank you very much, Kasit. If somebody wants to add, I guess everybody, as you have known, Dr. Sasa, who is the representative, international one from the National Union government, was supposed to join us. And just as the other democratic governments are talking to the NUG at the moment, as it is the case with Australia, which is neighboring to the region, it is justifiable that priority is being given to the government-to-government talks of the National Unity Government of Myanmar with the other partners. So there was also a question from May Wong from CNN. ASEAN has been criticized as a talk shop. With all due respect, are you seemingly creating another platform for talks?
Well, may I?
See, yes, of course.
It depends on at the given point in time of history, who are the ASEAN leaders. And if one were to go back, I think we have excellent, leadership of Dr. Thanat Khoman at the inception of ASEAN. Okay, let me mention the Taiwan. I think Dr. Sulin Pitsuwan was excellent foreign minister. And then under the Anand Panjarachun government, we were the one that more or less initiated the ASEAN Free Trade Agreement. And under Kasit, I think we did push for the Inter-Governmental Commission on Human Rights, the Master Plan on Connectivity, and then we work very closely together in the, rehabilitation post Nagis typhoon and so on. And then we pushed the military government of Thein Sein to realize the 7-point roadmap release of Aung San Suu Kyi, new constitution and quasi-democracy for whatever it is, but not a full-fledged military government. So it depends on who leads ASEAN at a given point in time. It's not only that talk shop, yes, most of the time it is, but there have been, I think, a firm decision. And we were together victorious in the repulsion of expansion of communism. And we took Vietnam out of Cambodia. And then we worked successfully in the resolution to the Vietnamese both people and the resettlement of many of the Cambodian friends and so on. There were some shortcomings, but in general, there have been positive pictures. And then that had to do with political decision and ASEAN with some teeth. But at the moment, it's toothless. I have to say that. It's a shame.
Thank you very much. Rainsy, you would like to add something, so please go ahead.
I would like to remind you that 10 years before the creation of ASEAN, there was the founding of the European community. We have to look at the foundation of the European Union. The European Union is not based on common interests alone. It is not based on common market. It is not based on common policies. It is not based on common currency. They have all that. But what is important are common values. The grouping, international grouping represented by the European Union is meaningful, vibrant, solid, because they are based on common values. I think once the SEAC is established based on common values, then there will be ground for actions, not only talk, as is the case with the current ASEAN.
I thank you very much, Rainsy, for these additional comments. And the final question comes from Nick Kochan, who is asking what would be the SEAC's approach towards international and other anti-corruption multilaterals, in particular having in mind the seizure of the criminal assets of the Myanmar military. This is something that was discussed in the previous press conference, but Wong, Chen, perhaps you would like to add something to this.
Okay, yeah, okay. So to answer Nick's question, most of this data about the criminal so-called assets of the military junta are available with the central banks or the monetary authorities of Southeast Asian countries. Why has ASEAN not come out a clear statement on this, and why hasn't all the central banks cooperated to list down this kind of thing, and also list down the partners who are in partnership with the junta in Myanmar? I understand that if, say, a company like, like we've all seen the Japanese company Kirin Beer announcing their withdrawal, if a Malaysian company is found to have heavily invested in a Myanmar joint venture, the junta in Myanmar, they should make an announcement to withdraw or to sell off their assets within, say, a year. But that hasn't happened at all in the ASEAN context. So if we have the say, if SEAC have its rules, and today we play by the rules and structure of SEAC, we would definitely compel all the central bankers to state their position and do an audit, and then to target not the people of Myanmar, but target the junta. And that's how you can get real work and real results out of this. You can't go to Jakarta, take photos with the junta, and then a few days later the junta start killing people again. It makes us very shameful as ASEAN members of parliament. You know what Mr. Rainsy said, and this comment about we're just a talk shop, I think is beyond that, because for many of us we feel deep shame. I mean, Dr. Fadli, the Rohingya issue was so painful to Indonesia and Malaysia, right? So there is a point where we cannot take this anymore. It must be better. There are ways to do things. It's just that the commitment from ASEAN seems to be very half-hearted. Some countries push hard, some push back, some refuse to do anything. So let's try to get SEAC as a vision out there, promote it from the NGOs, from the academics, from other politicians, because I know deep down inside, there's a lot of hunger amongst politicians from Southeast Asia to look good, to at least be part of the global community. How can this happen in our own backyard? Why should the European Union do more than us? All these are pressing questions, and it makes us look really, really bad. Yeah, Dr. Fadli, I think you might want to join at this point.
Well, actually, I would like to comment about this talk shop. Yeah, I think at least 4 major weaknesses of ASEAN as a regional grouping that we should address. Yeah, the tendency to prioritize national or regional interest, the weak leadership, ineffective bureaucratic structure, and purely emulating the Western approach without applying the principle. So I think that is the weaknesses of ASEAN. And ASEAN may answer and also very effective in the past, yeah, for certain issues. I think in the issue of Cambodia in the past, maybe, and also in the Philippines and other regional problems. But recently, of course, so many criticism, and it's becoming more irrelevant because we cannot even answer the dynamics, the challenges, and even the problems in front of our eyes. So I think this is a very important to us for us to make the initiative, this vision as an alternative project, alternative ASEAN project, and I agree with this, and I think we have to distribute this vision to our political leaders in our own countries, and of course, for me in Indonesia, and also to political parties, to member of parliaments, even to the government's officers, and so on, and civil society and the media. Thank you.
I thank you very much. With this last answer to the question, I believe we can conclude the press conference by taking, first of all, the signatories of the SEAC mission statement for dreaming big. 12 perhaps small points in the vision for the Southeast Asian community, but laying out foundation for something great for the people and for the citizens across Southeast Asia. A message of encouragement to the people who live in Southeast Asia, but also a message of encouragement to the entire international community, that the people of Southeast Asia will stand up to defend their own values they believe in, to defend their own democracy, and to defend themselves. I remind everybody that the SEAC mission statement has been distributed to you in the chat function, so please download it from there. And please do stay tuned, as there will be more information and more updates provided from the Southeast Asian community to you about the future positions and the future activities. I thank you very much for your active involvement and for your active participation. And I wish you a very lovely afternoon or day wherever you are. Thank you.
Yep.